let me welcome you to my channel. Before we begin the video, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and like this post. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley prevailed over Liv Morgan and Dominic at the Bayesian Berlin Premium Live event. On Twitter, Mysterio is SLX The Eradicators delivered a brief speech following the terrifying twins' triumph in the conflict between Dreadful Twins and the End of the World. Started during the SummerSlam Live Premium event, thing that happens at the summer's largest celebration. Mysterio betrayed Ripley. Finn Balor betrayed the Priest at Ripley on Twitter offered a brief message, communicating with the WWE fan base. At the event, a placard was dedicated to her. Rhea Ripley had no choice but to give up the WWE's Women's World title following her WrestleMania triumph over Becky Lynch. XL Morgan was victorious in the end, vanquishing the man at the Kings and Queens Palace quality live event, Lord of the Ring. When Ripley got back from her trip, she fought against Morgan in an attempt to secure the position at Berlin's SummerSlam party. Marked the first win for the Eradicator since returning. Rejoined the business following her extended harm while pinning the current champion. WWE match between the reigning Women's World Champions Morgan and Ripley might end up in print. The future of Bad Blood is uncertain because of upcoming intentions that WWE has. In the dimly lit room Rhea Ripley stood, go behind the scenes of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Berlin, her heart continuing to pump. In the heat of the game, though, the roar of the audience resounded in her mind, her ears, while bracing herself for the icy air. The women's world of WWE and concrete walls, triumph draped around her torso. Standing next to her, the Priest Damian tweaked his the bank's money briefcase and appreciative, grinning mischievously. It was like being in another world. Ambience backstage was charged with a blend of exhaustion and joy dangling in the broadcast while the crew and referees of superstars individuals circulated for a while, sending their best wishes to the victors, getting ready for the upcoming battle. However, for a while, it was only Damian and Rhea enjoying, amidst the radiance of their valiant struggle, win the match. It had been a real grind. Showdown between tag teams that put every one of their tenacity and determination. Seth and his opponent, a powerful duo. They had been provided by Rollins and Becky Lynch, all they possessed. Yet ultimately, proud among them were Rhea and Damian, further demonstrating their status as today's most powerful wrestlers. Rhea turned to look at Damian, who had captured her attention, and consented. Further elaboration was unnecessary. What this breeze represented was obvious to both of them. Simply one more triumph that was an assertion to every single person in the WWE Universe. It was more powerful than the Day of Judgment ever then, and they were never going to disregard it. As she resisted the need to mental whirlwind of ideas unsure about what the future held. The WWE scene is always changing. However, Damian and she both knew were impregnable, and they had demonstrated that tonight. It was with a stride of determination that Rhea took her the path to the Gorilla's foothold, where the press had already assembled in anticipation of following the game. Her responses, she could sense the gaze of them as the WWE Universe eagerly awaits her next move, redirect her subsequent statements. This was the time for her, and she had a crystal clear vision of her ideal. Accused Damian of tripping and then stepping on her, made their way to the microphone that had been set up. After the game, throughout interviews, the lights from the cameras began to every emotion conveyed by their countenances, all feelings to Rhea's eyes, the eagerness on the face of the journalist as the way they drew near, poised to cling attentively to her every word. But Rhea had a knack for her remarks, which were clear on her own or defend her behavior to others. Status as the ring's dominant force in and of itself. All it took was 3 words. With a determined look on her face, she approached the world of women in WWE, shining under the brilliant illumination. She could sense the vitality of the audience outside, who are still agog over the fight, her supporters yelling her name. She allowed. There was a brief period of expectancy, relishing the suspense before settling in, not far from the sound system as the crowd grew quiet. The appears to be waiting with bated breath as the dread of spoken by Rhea Ripley. Just 3 words that caused a seismic shift within the WWE Universe. The next person to be. Asterisk. The boldness of her statements dangled in TCH, the air energizing the environment. Instantly, the audience went silent, in place of a conflagration of jubilant shouts and gasps as the media hurried to record. When their fingertips swooped across, the swift clicking of their cameras as they typed, in order to preserve the terror's statement at her side as her Damian priest smirked slyly as he darkly giggled. Broader, he changed the bank's funds. With a briefcase, he held the potential for assured domination in the years to come. They took a posture that communicated self-assurance, that veered dangerously close to hubris, indicated that they were prepared to tackle. Nobody was finished yet, with the exception of Rio. Her eyes daringly surveyed the assembled multitude. Nobody to stand before her on the day of judgment had only recently established control over Berlin, but she yearned for more. The exciting journey to victory. Watching as her adversaries shattered before her, she leaned back into the microphone, her voice low and menacing, sending a clear message. We're just getting started. This was merely the initial stage. Rhea Ripley and the priest Damian had no plans to. They were prepared, perched on their laurel trees, in order to decimate the WWE roster, triumph over any adversary who had the audacity to join them on their journey. As they shifted to ask the reporters to step back, desperately needing additional sound bits, understanding on what to do next. But Rhea and they were already on their way out when Damian, their gaze fixed ahead, they had uttered. Their words were plenty. The moment had come. Take a seat in the locker room. Rhea lastly gave herself permission to calm down and think about what happened last night, as she gradually felt the rush of adrenaline withering away and a feeling of fulfillment along with an insatiable want for more. That exhilarating rush of wind was hard to resist, and she had already begun to consider what might come next. Take on the next victim. As he sat, standing opposite her, his bright eyes sparkling with the same ravenousness that you believe they possessed. Message he inquired about with a tinge of curiosity in his speaking voice. With her dark gaze, Rhea grinned and filled with potential. Oh, I see. And they failed, but they will succeed in due course. The two exchanged knowing looks and remained mute over the encounter. Everyone could see that this was merely the starting their terrifying rule. We planned to remain at the summit now that we were there, regardless of the cost, since, as the hours passed and the stadium gradually emptied, one thing was known to Rhea Ripley. Assuredly, the day of judgment was not until ended, and anybody who disagreed with that decision, Universe was about to throw him a curveball. Was going to be Rhea Ripley's, and the priest Damian was on his way to get them. The time, and there would be absolutely zero kindness. Casting a final look at her championship, Rhea drew back her thoughts, already thinking about what to do next. Triumph when the darkest hours were still ahead, and she was fully prepared to guarantee. No one forgot the precise reason they questioned her about who would be next. She murmured, a sinister smile extending over her face. On her countenance, whomever it was, were completely outmatched.